for themselves. But my second reason is that I have 3 children of my own who had 504s in college, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. They're all employed, which is a good news story, right? They finished college and they're all employed. So as parents, I think that's probably what you want to hear, right? So, now what am I not doing here, Rosie? Make it, why is it not going? Sorry, guys, we tried everything.
Yes. We can.
Okay, the last one had the same problem.
Right. We got all the way to the.
It's because we will have this one.
And I don't need to do anything.
Well, I need to see your PowerPoint and then we'll pick it up from the PowerPoint.
There
Okay,
we go.
we'll do it that way.
Okay. So if you have questions at home and you're in the chat, you just put them in the chat. Rosie will answer them or she'll ask them of me. So, okay. And just to let you know that we appreciate your feedback. I think you saw the slide already, so I'm going to scoot through it. All right.
Well, can you just move up just in case that somebody wants to take the code? Yeah, go back.
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
If you're gonna take that code, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Great. Okay. Awesome. All right. So the presentation for this session is preparing for college. I can't do this. This is driving me crazy. Sorry, guys. I apologize.
Just close it on the little corner.
Yeah, Rosie.
That's okay. Yes, right, the little one right there.
I'm also feeling like this other thing's gonna do me.
That's
Okay.
okay, you got it.
Thank you. Okay. So like I said, I'm Sally Sue, and that's what you need to know for that one. Great. I'm gonna make one of you students come up here and do this because I'm going crazy. Okay, there we go. All right, so what you want to know about IEPs and 504s is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about preparations that you've done by grade, the difference between high school and college, the process to access services in college, some sample accommodations you might see in college, and then questions to ask when you get to the university. So, traits of a student, a successful student, are students with disabilities who succeed in college demonstrate the same characteristics as their non-disabled peers. Few students have fully developed all of those traits to the entry to college, but do develop them over time. So I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff, and you might go, wow, maybe I don't have all these things, but don't worry about it, okay? I don't want you to stress out. You're going to get there. Seattle University's CCTS is where we're getting a lot of this information, what that's being presented. So students are successful students in college. There's the motivation, the preparation, the self-advocacy. So what these are the list of all those things that your teachers say that students will need: being goal-oriented, determination, perseverance. You've heard it all, right? Heard it all. Unsuccessful students, which none of you are, and your children are not, have these characteristics. Obviously, right? This is research-based. There can be things that we're still moving to successful, right? Whether you're in the 9th, yeah.
Show on the recording.
So I'm not recording it, but I am posting it. It is going to be posted. So these will all be.
I thought the history say all this will be posted,
It will be posted
but without a slide or with the slide?
with the slides.
With the slides.
Yes, but my voice isn't being recorded. All the mistakes I'm making won't be recorded, which is probably good, right?
You want it to be recorded and transcribed?
Well, what do you think? I think it's just posting. I think she did. They didn't tell us
I
to
guess so
record it.
too.
I wouldn't know who would I send it to. No, I don't even know who I'm sending it to anyone.
No.
So we're not recording it. All right, high school checklist. When then the 9th grade, these are the things that students have done. They're enrolling in college prep courses. They're developing that 4-year course plan. They're practicing explaining their strengths and their challenges. They're determining, they're identifying and documenting their accommodations and the supports they need. They're working with their counselor, working with a case manager. They're applying for those accommodations for an ACT and or the SAT with their counselor and case manager. And they're beginning to study those class concepts when not assigned homework. Those are all those things in the 9th grade students are doing, right? 10th grade, here are the skills that Bellevue School District students students and successful students are doing. They're attending those college fairs and they're seeing college reps. They're continuing to practice advocating for self. They acquire and expand on specific study skills. They master the effective study techniques. They explore the ACT or the SAT, should they be planning to take it, right? Because some colleges aren't requiring it. In the 11th grade, they're identifying those colleges that fit their interests, their goals, their needs. They use their college websites and catalogs to research admissions, disability services, and campus life. I'm going to talk to you a lot about that. They plan those campus visits. They start on the college application essay, and they start requesting those letters of recommendation. That's that 11th grade year. The 12th grade year, senior year. This is the big one, right? So, and I put them in bold because I know you need to know these, right? Meet with a guidance counselor to review the materials you need for the college app. Continue to develop those self-advocacy skills and study strategies. You're going to continue, students are going to continue to develop those through college, but even in 12th grade, it's really kind of being an independent press on that. Contact the Disability Service Center, and that's the critical thing that I'll give you plenty of information on that. Review and complete those college application forms. Ask a counselor to review completed apps to ensure all steps are followed 2 to 3 weeks before application deadlines. If a 504 or an IEP, college counselors, case managers, they know that you're going to come to them 2 to 3 weeks before those things are due and ask for like a review of them. Make sure I just have everything, okay? And then after they're accepted, when students are accepted to college, they want to contact the disabilities office at the college. So when you go on the tours, you're going to ask, when you take the tour, you're going to ask, tell me about your disability resource center. Show me where it is. If you go to a particular college where my children went and they said, we have a light because it gets really dark and kids get sad, they don't know what you're talking about. That's not what you need. You need an actual center and go talk to somebody else, right? And I'll tell you that every college campus has a disability resource center. And it is critically important because when you need it, right? And you deserve it. It's your right. Characteristics of those college-bound students, I kind of already went through that. How as a self-advocate, being a self-advocate, you're in the classroom, this affects my ability to. This is when you do that interview. Say, for example, students are put on a wait list, right? It's a reach school, and this is the one they want. And I'm just giving you examples of students I've worked with. And we kind of practice why do you want it? Why do you want to be at that school? Why do you think that's a good fit? Or you go for just to visit. Your responsibility when you go to the resource center or you go to the admissions person is they want to know, you might want to tell them that you don't have to, but you might want to tell them I have a disability, I have a learning disability, or I'm dyslexic, or I have a 504, or I have some other unique learning difference that requires me to need accommodations just to have what other kids have, to have that, to have my rights met. But you want to be able to tell them how it affects you in the classroom. And when studying, it affects my ability to, and in outside activities or work, it affects my ability to do. Those are just kind of the questions that you want to bring up. Students want to bring up too during that interview. So what's the difference? In high school, and for an IEP, parents play a major role in developing IEPs and 504 plans, major role. Parents have access to people who provide supports and services, and parents can monitor the supports implemented. College is different. College, don't have to do any of those things, right? Right? And it seems a little spooky, but it's not. They don't have to provide or implement an IEP. It's not called an IEP in college. They don't have to provide specialized instruction or tutoring, and they don't have to provide the same academic supports provided in high school, right? Their legal obligation, however, is under the Civil Rights Laws and American with Disabilities Act, that's the ADA. They have to ensure equal access for people with disabilities. And they protect people from discrimination. So at At the college level, you do not, when you apply, you do not have to tell, you don't have to tell anybody you have a learning disability, or you have an IEP, or you have a 504. It's your right, you don't have to do that. You want to do that once you're accepted because you want to make sure that your accommodations are met, right? Okay, so some colleges may provide additional support, tutoring or coaching for a fee, or more personalized support. Typically, liberal arts colleges, what they provide for students in accommodations, they often provide to everyone. So it's across the board, right? They have a tutoring center, but it's available to everyone. And so those are the smaller liberal arts colleges. The larger colleges, University of Washington, Boise State, WSU, even Bellevue College, they have a learning resource center. You have a space that you need to go and check in with that counselor there, and there's some requirements. So when you're applying for accommodations, you're going to do that after you've been accepted to the college. So once you've been accepted to a college, you're going to contact the, sometimes it's called the Disability Center, sometimes it's called the Resource Center. But you identify that the student who's 18 must identify that they don't must, but they should identify that they have a disability, a learning disability. And it's also on the instructions, probably on their website, how you do that. And like I said, different ones have different expectations. So what you need to do that is you need to provide documentation. So the documentation that you'll need is something from the school, which is the school's evaluation, and the case manager or your counselor can get that for the student. You bring that in or you email it in. Or if there's a medical examination that has indicated a disability. So those are the documentations. Again, it's not an IEP, it's more like a 504 because it's accommodations that you have in school. Typically, they need to be within the last 3 years. An IEP document is not what you would bring. You would bring your evaluation. And then the student is responsible for coordinating their services. And this is the part where, say it's August and you're on your way to, you're doing all your meetings with your child. They've already been accepted. This is a school they want. You work with a contact within that resource center. You bring them at that time, you set up a meeting, you bring them all your documentation. They're probably, parents can be there, but they probably are just talking to the student, right? Because it's the students, once they're in college, they don't give parents grades, updates, they don't tell when a tutoring session is. It's all for the student. But so you'll go to that resource center, student hands the paperwork, and then they start talking about what are the accommodations that you are most successful with. So there's like a set that's pretty typical. And like I said, liberal arts college often will provide that across the board to students. But if it's specific, what you will end up getting is when the student says, okay, I've registered with this disability center, I've given them all my paperwork, everything's good to go. At the beginning of every term, they contact me with information. They send me through my email, student, they send me the letters that I give to my teacher. And I make a contact with that teacher and say, these are the accommodations I need in your class. Student never has to give it to their teacher. They don't. They can sit in their email the entire quarter and choose not to do that. It might be a class they're like, you know what, I don't think I need this letter, or I don't think I need these accommodations. And so they hold it in their email. As soon as they give it to the teacher, those accommodations have to go into effect. So even if they don't give it to them at the beginning of the quarter, they can give it middle of the quarter. Like, you know what, I'm starting to fall behind. I feel like I should have put this accommodations. I have this letter in my email. They get, typically, the resource center has a system where they identify all your classes and they write a letter to each individual teacher. And then they email them to you and you make sure that that letter gets to teacher or that notification, right? That's the system at most schools. Things change and maybe it'll be on like a final forms by the time you get there, but right now that's what it is typically. It's a letter that the student gives to the teacher or emails to the teacher to notify them that I need accommodations. So kinds of accommodations. So lots of times we have very specific accommodations like alternate form of response, right? Or in fact, we just had a student that came in here and he said he was taking his midterm and his teacher said, I haven't had a lot of success with those paper midterms. So follow me around for 30 minutes and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. And he said that was his midterm, right? And we just thought it was really interesting. I was like, well, does everybody get to do that? He said, yeah, that's just what that teacher said. But typically, that's not the typical accommodation for a teacher that just says, I'm going to give a paper pencil, right? There's our presentation of material. Change the way they complete an assignment or a test by providing it on a keyboard to a student who struggles with handwriting when they are writing an essay. The setting might change and the timing and scheduling might change. So writing, let's see, preferential registration. Oh, yeah. So sometimes what happens is students might need an early morning class or something. So they'll say, you know what, your schedule for registration is at this time, right? So that often is an accommodation that is added. So they will have note takers in class. Often they'll have the audio recordings, laptops in class, taking exams in a distraction or distraction-free environment. It says reduced room. Preferential registration, extended time on tests. So some colleges, like we said, provide more supports. They'll provide study skills or time management workshops. Like I said, it depends. Those are the kinds of questions that we need to ask when we go for the tour of what they provide, because that's how you're going to find out if it's a good fit for you, right? And sometimes universities will say, yes, we have a math tutoring center. I suggest you go to that math tutoring center and you say, is this a math tutoring center? Or is it a bunch of graduate students who aren't really paying attention to tutoring, but they're here and I don't really know what they're providing me. So just really make sure you visit all those places. Go for your college visits. Accessing the professors is critical. No matter who's in you know, what level you are in college, whether you're first year or your graduate school, whatever it is, they'll have those office hours. Students should utilize those to support, especially if they have questions or concerns. That's what they're there for. They're for you. Savvy questions to ask the disabilities office. I mean, that would be one of those things that, you know, you're trying to figure out whether you're a good fit and they're trying to figure out if they can meet your needs. They want to know that you have some questions that really speak to why this is going to be successful for you. So you ask them if they have provide tutoring. If so, is there a limit to the number of hours? What supports do the writing math labs do? Is my advisor for the disabilities office the same advisor I'd have for tracking progress towards graduation? So you have your counselor in your department, and then you have your disabilities counselor. Typically, they're different. Are there additional costs or services are needed? And how are the professors notified of my accommodations? Like I said, usually it's you get the email and then you deliver that letter to your professor. And then when do I need to come to the office? Do I have to, like, for example, do I have to come every year at the start of the year or to re-sign up? So those are the kinds of questions you're going to want to ask the Disability Resource Center. Are course substitutions allowed? So sometimes what happens is you take the, students will take the math placement test or the language placement test, and our students often will score very high on a math placement test, but because sometimes language or memory or processing is where they, you know, their learning difference lies, they get placed in a really high math class, but it's a lot of language, and then they struggle. So what you want to do when you get your math placement is really look at it and say, have I taken the classes that were before that? Because kids have a lot of skills coming from Bellevue School District, I believe, in our math programs. And sometimes we get placed in really high classes. And if we're skipping over because our test scores are higher, that can be a deficit if we're already struggling with, bringing in information, holding information, right? So I have noticed that kids have said that to me, right? It's like, you know what, I did really well in this test and they put me in too high a class and I was lost. So I'm just telling you that, right? Just be careful of that. Doesn't mean you're following mine. Okay, so if you have questions about the Learning Resource Center at the colleges you're looking at, every college has one because by law they're supposed to. You can, if you ask your case manager or your counselor to say, I don't know what it's called, I need more information, we can look it up for you and give you some links, some information on that. We can also tell you that, some programs are a little more accommodating, not that they're not all accommodating, but some are a little more accommodating than others. And then talking to other students is really important, especially when you're taking that tour. And then once you get to college and you're in your area of choice, a lot of your accommodations are almost unnecessary because you're doing something that you're really passionate about. And it is the thing that you probably, you already have the content knowledge, so maybe the reading is not the challenge that it might have been before. But there's oftentimes tons of resources out there for you and for students and for families on just how to navigate this whole challenging issue. You guys have any questions? Like I said, kids are really successful. And it's really exciting. Don't rush it. Don't push them too fast because college, they get really excited and make sure they get to that. If there's anything else I can tell you is get to that. It's your right to be there because you have a very unique brain and the world needs you. So make sure you get to the Disability Resource Center, Learning Resource Center.
Does your high school counselor help you when you're a senior to take, like, if you have an IEP with you? Like every year, like we review the IEP or the 504 plan,
Right.
And we adjust it.
Yeah.
So when they become a senior, does that get adjusted and they take that to college with them?
So IEPs are K-12. So once once they graduate, no more IEPs. So it's federal law K-12 education.
Okay.
It's not called a 504, but it's like a 504 in college. It's the accommodations, but they don't know you need them unless you go to that Disability Resource Center and register yourself and identify yourself as a student with a learning disability. Because of the American with Disabilities Act, you can't be discriminated against.
So basically, you start all over.
Kind of start over.
Everything behind you is done. You go to that.
Right.
Place. They sort of started all over.
They started all over. They don't know you. Yeah. And you didn't show up on your
Student.
Student does, right? Because your application probably never said that you had an IEP. When we do that, when we transfer from schools to schools, we say, yeah, I have this extra documentation. But when you go to college, it's,
So
they don't
just have to go there and ask. Like,
Yep.
These are the help. These are the things I need assistance with.
And I would tell you, I went with my son and I sat there and I was silent and I'm like, but we practiced a lot of those questions. What are you going to ask? He also had a track coach call him and it was like on the border whether or not he was going to get in. And he said, this is what I need. And then my daughter went and she was on a wait list for a Reach school. And she said, I'm going to go to the financial aid. I was like, honey, you're a little late. You're not getting any financial aid. And she said, I'm going there. I'm going to the Research Disability Center. And by the time she got back, she was in because she had advocated for herself and she knew it was a good fit. And she stayed there and she was successful. Knock on wood, and she's still fine. But it's time, right? They can do it.
Yeah.
And, and I always say with kids in college is like, 4 years doesn't mean 4 years all in the same place. They can always, you can come back and do some summer classes at a school that's closer to you and then go back, or you can switch somewhere else where you're comfortable. Those things transfer. But if anything, I would say make sure when you're touring, you're asking about the resource center, and kids know that this is just the way my brain works. I'm good. I'm going to be really successful.
Transfer. All over again.
Starting all over again every time. Yeah, you get a job, you're starting all over because you have the right to tell, you know what, I have this as a accommodation. Right? I need my, meetings. I need meeting notes when I go to meetings. That's your accommodation as American with Disabilities. You want to get check in again. Yeah, no, it is. They know they're. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is self-advocacy. They can do it. Yeah. Thank you. That was quick. Yes.
So is there any program that a student, when they are in high school, they finish, the 12 3 years in high school here, and then they don't get graduation, the diplomas, but the school district provide a program for them to stay there and then to learn more. So when they are ready, they graduate, and then they can maybe be ready to go to college. Is there such program?
Absolutely. So about a month ago, we did another presentation for students who are going to stay till they're 21, right? Because special education rights go until you're 21, should you stay within the school system. And I can give you more information. I can give you a contact on that one. It's Jen Straley. Monica Chapman is another person. So students who say, for example, they missed a year and they low on credits and they didn't finish high school in the 4 years. They finished in, they needed an extra year. I've had kids head off to WSU. We sent another one to University of Arizona.
You mean after the finish? What school is it?
So a lot of students will go into the transitions program, which is Evergreen Transitions, and it's another year to get ready to launch. That's what we call it. Like, you know what? They're not ready to launch. At the senior year, they needed more time, and they didn't quite earn their diploma. And so they're working on it in an environment where they're getting more, self-advocacy training and independence and, planning. Like, what do you really want to do? Right? At least, it can be longer. It can be up till they're 21. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they're ready to go, we suggest they go. Yeah, we do. Well, it's like, I think you're ready. You're ready to go.
And can you get like while they are in the transition school, are they able to, school would help them to take some
so some are dual,
course?
yeah, some are dual enrolled. Some are dual enrolled in the transition program in Bellevue College. So yeah. That's it.
I have a question.
On the applications itself, any advice on how the application should be handled?
So my, so the school, every school has, the counselors kind of set up the college app workshops that they do. I think you've probably heard about those. They give them an opportunity to do it. Like I said, getting those letters of recommendation should be, junior year, they should sort of know who they're going to ask and start sending the emails to the teachers. The Common App is the one that the counselors, I believe, spend the most time helping students get through. They could work with they could definitely work with their case manager or their counselor to get those done. That's definitely junior and senior year. We work on that with students. They can stay at tutorial and get more help. Definitely want to help them get through their application. Anything that they they need a little extra help on. And information to add, again, self-advocacy. If a student were to say, you know what, I have, and I've seen this too, students with that were dyslexic, and their University of Washington essay was on their dyslexia and how they overcame these challenges from second grade, how they've learned to advocate for themselves. It was powerful, and there were kids with higher GPAs that didn't get in, and those kids did. Because we're always looking for somebody that really knows themselves. So, you have a great story. They have great stories.
There's one question that he doesn't want to write it.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I was just typing it out.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, just a quick question. First, I want to say thank you for the presentation. It's super informative. So I understand we took, you talk about that the process resets, right? Once the kid gets accepted into college. So I was wondering that will the college request information, say, for example, from high school, that we should be prepared or, talk to the counselor, for that process to begin with the college?
Yeah, no, the only thing that the college typically, I've never had a college call me.
Okay.
I wish they would, but I never have. Could I call a college? I don't know who I'd call, but if you asked me to on your behalf, I definitely would. I know any other teacher would as well. However, they don't call us. They don't really want to hear from us. They want to see the eval from your 504 or your IEP.
Okay.
That's the disability center, not the college. The college has already accepted you. Student.
Okay, understood. Okay, so the disability center will need the IEP or the 504, which we will be we could get a copy from the counselor, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So your what should happen when the student graduates from their 12th grade year, the teacher, the case manager will send a last graduation, like a little letter that says this is the last, you're fully graduated, and also here's your eval. If you don't get it, then request it.
Okay.
Or request it in the summer. It's online. We have them, the records.
Okay.
Request it a year after you graduate because it's like, oh man, I need that eval. We keep the record, so request it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Every 3 years.
An eval every 3 years is it?
So you're starting to bump up into grade. Is that the last evaluation that we can carry forward?
So what'll happen with say it's a 12th grader and they're, I don't know, this time of year, they don't really want to have another bunch of tests, right? So what they'll do is they'll say, excuse the eval, but they'll use old test data and they'll just make that legal document for you. And then you'll have it. But by law, every IEP, every 3 years, there needs to be a re-eval on record. It just might use older data, but not old data. It's still appropriate. It still says you have what students have to what they have. Absolutely.
And you can request